Hi, good afternoon. I guess really just say a bit more about Iceland. We are actually the profitable bit and not the country that's near the north that's currently bankrupt. There's two pieces we've been asked to share with you today. One is on the back of Nigel's presentation, where we've invited our colleagues from D-Side to talk about how they own shrink in Iceland. Now, rather than try and bring a whole team down here, we've shot a video which we're going to show you shortly. It'll last about 10 minutes. Post the video, myself and Janet will talk you through the changing culture that we put into our loss prevention team. So we went from a very positional power, marking your homework, to getting more involved with the business and leading change. So Janet is from the HR department. She's my business partner. There's two other business partners in the room. Mark, if you'd like to stand up. Mark Rees is our finance business partner, and one of our critical team members, Peter Metcalf. So without ado, we'll fire the short video, and then we'll give you a further 10-minute presentation, and then we'll take any questions that you have. Thank you. Hi, my name's Houghton. I'm head of Iceland's corporate audit. I'm here to give you a warm welcome on a sunny day to our head office in D-Side, just north of Chester. Today we're going to share with you the journey our team has gone on, and also for you to listen and hear the views of other departments that work with us every day to reduce our shrink. About 5 years ago, we got to the point whereby we had delivered consistent results. We got confidence in the business that any audits we did, north, east, south or west, would be consistent. The advice we were giving people was consistent, but we were very positional, power based, and our advice was very much about rules, responsibilities, policy, process. And I felt we'd gone as far as we could. It was a seed that was sown in my mind at a show similar to this, where I saw a guy stand up and talk about B&Q, how he'd taken over a similar position, but felt that he needed a different skill set in his team. So that seed stayed there for about 2 years. And I guess I got to the same position that he did. And then it was more about explaining to my boss what I believed the benefits to the organisation would be of making that cultural change and the risks. Once we'd made that decision, it was then engaging with our HR business partners to talk about how do I go about doing this that's fair to our people. And we moved from a competency set of where we were to what we needed. I knew I had to sit down with the team at the end of our process to say to people, yeah, you've demonstrated the capabilities that we're looking for, well done and welcome to the next journey. And then knowing that there were some people that the process had suggested that would really struggle with this. And that was no real surprise, but it was knowing tomorrow morning I had to look those people in the eye and change their life. The next stage for us is becoming part of the solution. So, we have a mixed skill set. We do audit, we have red stores on markdowns, red stores on stop loss and cash loss. But we're internal consultants as well, which sounds very grand, but that's what we do. And I think we've now, working with our retail operation colleagues, not only do we measure the gap for them, but we're now working close with them to reorganise and re-engineer some of them processes. So owning the responsibility to find a solution as well as measuring it, I think, is where we'll be in the future. So a real close partnership with our operation colleagues.
When I started in store, I was a part-time sales assistant. I used to work after school and on a Saturday. And from what I remember, from what I don't remember, there wasn't really an audit function as such. We used to have security managers that I remember paying a visit to the store, and area managers. Part of my job is to analyse data from store transactions looking for potential cashier fraud. We call them at Iceland central till alerts. We then we'll put an escalation together, and it'll be one of the loss prevention investigators that would again, look at the packs, look at the data, and then go into store and do the either investigations or interventions with the cashiers.
And for me, it was all about really, when we go into stores, our people, their perception of us, because really we're in a position of, actually, we're going to tell them what to do, but now people come to us for support. It's all about engaging the store teams by my own personal power, really. I mean, it's not a case of just going in there and telling them what to do. It's about going in there and coaching and developing the store teams.
Well, we have quite a long history with the loss prevention department. I would consider it as probably the best cross-functional piece of work that I have done, and I'm sure Adi himself would agree, in that two completely different departments have got together and developed systems, developed ideas, and developed a plan of how to get at the results and the figures and the causes of shrinkage. Interesting enough, at the moment we're looking at RF, radio frequency, handheld scanners in store, and I've just been to a meeting today which suggests that we can push the boundaries of finance and the way it pays invoices to an improved and higher level than we've ever done before, simply because of the operational work that's going on with loss prevention to tighten up the process of the back door. So that is just an example of today.
AD brings up the challenge or the concern if things are shrinking particularly bad over a certain percentage, and then I see what I can do about it. I get an insight into how other areas perform, not just on shrink but on sales as well, but also how they can react to it. And I think that with produce reacting quickly, or very, can think on its feet, I think sometimes that helps with the other areas in the business.
We have a weekly meeting, which is a very cross-functionally weekly meeting. There's members of buying in there, merchandising in there, loss prevention and supply chain. I personally attend that meeting. We go through specific detail, anything that's relating to poor service which is driven by waste, or anything that's driven by waste predominantly. With all the right people around that table to fix those issues, so it's the ideal opportunity to nail those issues and really get them boxed off and sorted. We're currently working on smoother delivery patterns into store. Adi's been key in kind of getting this up and running, and a great support for me personally in doing so as well. We still need to accept some amount of waste to grow the business, but it's about taking the unnecessary waste out of the business.
I think the focus that we're putting onto the shrinkage projects and the way we work together is a big thing that's going to change for the future. We're all pulling together, we're all making sure that we're delivering the main goal for the business, and that is to add profit to the business.
I attend a meeting every Tuesday with Adi and what we class as the shrinkage team, which is representatives of merchandising, product supply, loss prevention, and we sit down, we analyse what happened in the previous week, and then what are the issues that are going to affect us in the coming week. And we basically have a debate. Is it something that we've caused? Is it something that is a bad line? Or are there certain issues within that we can investigate and get to the root cause? So it's very much a teamwork, and the thing we don't do is we don't have a blame culture. If something's wrong, fine, you accept it, fix it, and then move on. I think the biggest area of success is by having the team, is that we've actually got away from the conflict. I've been with the business 10 years, and when I first joined, buying didn't actually have responsibility for shrinkage, which was a crazy scenario, because you get the situation where the buyers just throw products into the business, take the sales, and don't have the worry of the waste. Whereas the culture now is we own every aspect of the commercial side of the business. So the way I communicate to my team internally after the shrinkage meeting is, for every 0.1 we can save on shrinkage, that's actually the same as taking 0.1 off the cost price. So it focuses people's minds, and I think as a business it's an evolving story journey, if you want. And we've gone from, probably 3 years ago it was fairly conflictive. Everybody, it's a proper team now. and we can go out and challenge other parts of the business and how do we make things better.
When we used to recruit, or previously when we used to recruit, we would look at the technical ability, we'd look at their attention to detail, we'd look at whether they're able to process information, and look whether they're able to give feedback and write reports. And we now look at it quite differently. We want to look at competencies, and we want to look whether they're a cultural fit for the business. The criteria that we use has changed. I think it changed in line with when AD made those changes to his team as well, what we used to look for, and then what we now are looking for when he identified that those changes were needed within his team. We wanted to reflect that within the recruitment process. I think it is just a different type of person, and we ask them and we look for different things. There's still people out there that are interested in loss prevention and corporate audit, but we are asking and trying to extract different information from those individuals to see if they can display it. It's not just about the pure technical ability, because that can be taught at the end of the day.
I think it's really exciting working with audit, because although you think that they've raised the bar as much as they can, there's always something new that they're going to do, or something new that they're thinking about trying. I think it's interesting when I meet with AD and we have conversations about what we can do with the team, because he's very keen to light a fire and to start them thinking in new and different ways. But what happens next is really, I think, what sets the team apart for me. As individuals and as a team, they actually take it and they make it work, and they take it one step further. I regularly have conversations with AD about the team and how they're performing as individuals, and thinking about what support we can provide for them. There's always a theme involved as well, in terms of what's going to help them to think differently, what's going to help them to embed the learning they've already had, but link to the future. This year, it's very much about doing that. It's not about doing the same as we've done before, but it's about thinking about what are the next logical steps. I've had some ideas about things that we've used across Iceland in the past, but I think it's always good to talk to AD, because he's got always ideas about how he can build that in a way that really makes a difference for his team.
Okay, so that's our dear colleagues back at D-Side explaining to you about how they feel and interact and own on the parts of the shrinkage. There's a very short presentation now, because we were also asked to share with you the cultural change that we put into our team. If I go back to 2005, when Malcolm came back into the business, and we were 4 days away from going bankrupt. That creates quite a burning platform, and decisions have to be made very, very quickly. One of those decisions was for my sins to take me out of the retail side of the business and give me responsibility for the loss prevention and the audit team. Now, the audit team used to be able to write lots of reports. They'd be word perfect. We'd only do 2 audits a week. Half of the content didn't make any difference to our store managers, but the audit team were doing things in a very correct manner, but adding very little value to the business. So the challenge was bringing those 2 very different teams together, the loss prevention and the audit team. So on our journey, we clearly had 2 different teams. So the first thing to do was to get the productivity up, because 2 audits a week is no good for a retailer. So first of all, we put alignment in. We got them delivering audits in a consistent way, whether it was north or south or east or west. We audited the things that mattered to the business, namely stock, cash, legal, health and safety. The loss prevention team was a very, very successful team as well. We manage a process of what we call red stores, which are high cash loss, stock loss or reduced in waste, and we focus very closely with those stores. It was a very central command and control from me. We were very aligned, we were very focused. We used to mark store homework. We were called policemen, we were called school teachers. We didn't own the problem, but we were very good at describing what the problem was in store. We were process and policy experts, and we used an awful lot of positional power because we knew all the rules. We then needed to improve the team. So my challenge was always from my boss, who's one of the owners of the business, was your salary budget for your team you have to earn every year, which makes your mind very focused on what you put your precious resource into. So every year Mark is asked to independently apply a financial measure to the interventions that my team spend their time with. And to date, we've delivered every year. However, there comes a time when you say, I've got to raise the bar and change things. I had two different teams. They were crossing over on motorways. They were living away from their home and their families. We were a bit inflexible. We'd become a bit of an oil tanker, maybe a bit of a civil service. Heavily reliant on positional power. We were driving compliance. We weren't driving commitment. However, everything to the business looked good. But there comes a point when you're a manager that you know that where you are needs to change. How could we deliver more for less? How could we spread a bit of magic across the organisation that meant the stores that we weren't just focusing in, we could also help them to deliver what they needed to do? So, at that point, it takes courage to potentially rip up what to everybody else in the business was working well. It takes courage yourself because to some degree you put your career on the line. But if you believe it's the right thing to do and you're true to yourself, you know that that feeling's not going to go away. So we had too many needs to change. We need to be able to grow our people. We need to give back to our people some time with their families. We needed to become one team, not two teams. And in every retail business, every department is asked to contribute more and more each year. And at the same time, the agreement from a boss was there will be no visible downturn in service to the business. So quite an interesting challenge. So I went in there thinking I'm doing all the influence and I'm going to get what I want. And I came out thinking maybe it wasn't such a good idea. Now, at this point, I'm going to hand over to Jan, and at the end, I'm going to come back, and Jan will take you through some of the processes that we did.
Okay, thanks, Adi. I think Adi had a really clear vision as to what he wanted to do with his corporate audit team, and it was my role as his HR business partner to come up with the process of how we were going to get there. Two things. Firstly, a restructure, and secondly, a commitment to move away from central control. So the easiest one was the central control, and this morning Fran mentioned that normally the FTE split of any loss prevention team is usually 50-50 with the centre and the retail field. Actually, following the restructure, ADs was 85% out there in the field and only 15% back in D-side. In January 2009, we made a business announcement, which was AD's proposal to restructure his two-tier team and move it to one. We were very clear that this put 6 members of the audit team under risk of losing their jobs. And we went into a period of consultation with those people to help them to understand the reason why we'd done it and how we were going to get from one team to two. During the course of that 30 days, Adi and I travelled the length and breadth of the country to hold at least 3 discussions with each of those team members. At the heart of this was always the care of the individual, helping people who didn't want to go forward for the new roles to find other jobs, and also taking the people along with us. Ultimately, over a 6-month period, we did lose 2/3 of our original team and resulted in new team members being recruited. As I just said, that was a 6-month period, and along that way, once we got our new team, we then had to start our development journey. The team was now made up of some existing employees of both levels and also some new recruits that had come out of retail. We focused our training and development days, of which I think we had 6 over a period of 18 months, on how we communicate with people and different communicating styles. As Adi said, it's been very much a command and control and a parent-child relationship, and we wanted to move that to a more collaborative approach. We also introduced an influencing model so that people would work in a similar way and consider how they went around influencing the people that they were working with. And finally, it was around change, because what we wanted to do through working in this way was actually to bring about change, and that be sustained change, and therefore they needed to understand how we needed to do that. We recognise that this was a continually improving team, but I think it's important to say for the start that the feedback that we received from retail immediately noticed a difference in the way the team was working and the approach they were taking. People were welcoming the team into their stores rather than seeing it as somebody to come in and find out what they were doing wrong. We have a staff survey every 6 months, and within 6 months of this restructure, the Straight Talk survey for the corporate audit was actually showing 100% in staff engagement and 100% in management index. And I think that is great credit to Adi and his managers in terms of what he's managed to achieve during that period of change. At the end of this, we actually entered the corporate audit team for the Rising Star Awards as Best Support Team of the Year. Rising Stars fed back that this is the first time they've ever seen an approach like that from an audit team. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but we did come second with a really good accreditation. And finally, Adi achieved the new culture that he was looking for, from parent to child, onto collaboration, but the journey doesn't end here.
So the rewards. For the first time ever, we had members of our new audit loss prevention team. One of them has been promoted to an area manager. Never heard of in Iceland. We now have a waiting list of store managers who wish to join our team. We have other departments that invite us in to work with them. Our team engagement measure is actually the highest of any department in Iceland. And as Jan said, we now get invited to work cross-functionally with other departments because we're seen as people that not only have some experience and knowledge, but also want to share in owning the problem and therefore the solution. So, what next? My job now as a leader is to make sure that we now go for the next stage of our development, because as you know, if you stand still, you'll end up going backwards. So, what we're now seeing is more ambition from our team of people. They're going back into stores as store managers. We've got another member of the team that's shared an interest to go into the HR department, and another member of the team that is on the shortlist for a trainee area manager role. We've now given our teams regional responsibilities where they sit in with the regional operation teams and help them make the right decisions. We've created our own set of capabilities and skill sets, and we continue to do our own team development, and our next development is next week, where for 2 days we get together as a team and we work on the skill sets that we need to have to do our job better. So, as with the Olympics, I'd like to say we be going to Rio in 2016, but I don't think that will happen. Where I think we're going to end up is we're now going to, I would like our people to work with the field operations team and not only own the problem, but work with them to develop the solutions so that we get the controls and the consistency that we need, but we engineer it in a way that it's acceptably maybe the best shortcut for our store teams. And to understand the secrets of how we get first-time operational adoption when we manage change into the business. So that's our journey. I hope it's been of some value to you because you've all invested half an hour of your life to sit in here and listen to us. At this point, if there's any questions, we'll do our best to answer it.